friends, welcome back or welcome if you're new here. My name is Stacy and I am the Chapter Conundrum. And in today's video, I wanted to kick off a holiday romance reading vlog. So my TBR for the end of the year is kind of crazy. It's overwhelming. And I am at the point where I'm slumping and just like ready to rebel against my TBR completely, which is not the best, but this is a cycle I tend to go through. I follow my TBR for like a year and a half. And then all of a sudden, the mood reading gremlin in me comes out and is like, absolutely not. But the plus side of me taking a big diversion is that one of my big goals for 2026 is going to be to clear off some physical books from my shelves. And I do own a few holiday romances that are going to suit this time of year perfectly, because if not now, then when, right? So I have a few potential books that I can read for this vlog for sure. And I've actually already started one. So I needed an audiobook for the car that was easy to sync into the other day when Jake and I were traveling to family for Thanksgiving. And thankfully my library loan for the holiday honeymoon switch by Julia McKay came in like that morning. And so I was thinking, oh, perfect. I'll just do that in the car. Jake won't care. He's fine with whatever. So that's what I did. I ended up starting that. And then I've gotten a considerable chunk in and I'm enjoying it so far. And the only reason that this actually ended up on my radar is because it is a buddy read over on the Bridge for Books Discord, which I'm fairly new to, but I found them, I think it was Amanda from Reading and Writing Life was mentioning that they were putting out their challenges for next year. And you know me, I love a good reading challenge. So I had to go check that out. But I was happy to see that they also do like text-based reading sprints over there pretty regularly, and that's kind of fun. That's something I haven't done in a hot minute, but I did used to love doing it, and I have kind of jumped in on a few, and it's been fun. Everybody over there seems really lovely so far, but it's really fun that they were able to put this one specifically on my radar and that I was able to get it from the library, because I went into this knowing absolutely nothing. I just thought, okay, if it comes in from the library and I'm in like a holiday romancy mood, like maybe I'll buddy read it with everybody. But this is by a Canadian author, and there's a few like Canadian cultural things mentioned in here that have just kind of made me smile. It is also kind of strange that like the audio narrator is American and absolutely does not understand. So there have been a few moments like that where I'm just like, okay, that's not quite right. So a couple fun examples of like little Canadian snippets and like how I know that the narrator is American. There's a scene where one of the characters is described as like approaching and he's wearing a toque, which is our name for a beanie. And the audiobook narrator pronounces it toque. And so when I heard that, I was like, well, what the heck is a toque? And then it kind of clicked like, oh, she wrote toque. And the audiobook narrator just doesn't understand like the French pronunciation and like how it's supposed to sound. But yeah, so that was funny because that was like very early on in the book and I was like, this author must be Canadian. And then sure enough, later on in the book, there's a fun random reference to Mr. Noodles, which is our name and like our brand for ramen. So that's been really fun. We all know I've been kind of down a rabbit hole of enjoying contemporary romance by Canadian authors lately. And definitely it's fun and interesting for me as an immigrant to the US to have like snippets of my home culture in what I'm reading, especially this time of year paired with like what type of like cozy, warm kind of book it is. It just is a very homey feel. So that's been fun. But essentially the premise of this one is that you have two best friends, Holly and Ivy, and Holly is set to get married and go on this lovely honeymoon to Hawaii. But the night before the wedding, her husband-to-be calls things off. And obviously, she doesn't want to go on her honeymoon by herself. So she and her friend Ivy end up switching vacations. So Ivy, the maid of honor, ends up going on what was the honeymoon, and Holly ends up taking over Ivy's like art kind of vacation to a cottage in upstate New York in the winter that she wanted to go to just like hang out and draw scenery and stuff. And the book kind of follows their adventures on these trips as well as some blooming potential romances for each of them. So first of all, this story is absolutely not realistic at all. This would never happen in the real world kind of thing. But I am liking it and I'm having a good time reading it, and I'm not finding it cheesy to the point where it's frustrating, which can be a common complaint for me in these types of reads. Like I'm somebody who doesn't really watch holiday romance or like Hallmark movies because I cannot with how cheesy they are sometimes. Some of them are decent, but most of the time I'm just like, really? So, yeah, I am happy to report that so far I'm liking this one. And I'm also happy that I am like halfway through an audio already today because I have some things that I need to get done around the house this morning. But I'm thinking I might just kind of like gamify it just because I have no ambition or motivation to get up and do things today. I'll probably just set a timer for like an hour, and whatever I get done in that hour while listening to the audio is what I'm going to get done for today, and then the rest can just wait until tomorrow. Because my to do list is mostly things that can happen like anytime this weekend. It doesn't necessarily have to be today. And I'm also somebody who likes to lean into doing things when my mood is to do them. But also, I don't want to leave like the entire list for tomorrow because then I'll just be frustrated with myself. Like, why did I do this? So I think that might be a decent compromise. And then in terms of the other books on my shelves that fit into this, we have Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. So this is a nice short one. I think it's like 200-ish pages. Yeah, 243 pages. And for some reason, like the audio version that I can find available for this is the German edition. I have no idea why that's the thing, but like my Hoopla and my Everend both have the German audio, but not the English audio. So I'm happy that I own this one physically because that is how I'm going to be reading it if I decide to pick this one up. I have enjoyed several Tessa Bailey books in the past, so I'm sure to enjoy this one. Next up, we have Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh, and I know absolutely nothing about this as it was one of my sister's books that she picked out and read and then passed on to me when she was done with it. The tagline is she's meant to be catching flights, not catching feelings. So I'm assuming there's going to be some like holiday travel stranded in an airport scenario maybe. And this is one that I didn't see the audio available anywhere like Everend, Hoopla, Libby. So I will also be reading this one physically if I pick it up. And then the last one is Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison. And my library does have the audio for this, but there is a wait time. So this probably won't be one I pick up next, but it might be one that I get to if the audio comes in for this vlog. Or I could also just decide to read it physically too. I'm pretty sure that Kelly over from Coffee Cups and Books has this as like a potential on her December TBR. So I will probably chat to her in a few days once it's actually December and see if she ends up picking this up, and maybe we can make it a bonus buddy read. So yeah, those are kind of like my potential reads for this vlog. It will be good to clear at least a couple of these off. And Holiday Romance is on my self-destruct for 2025. So if I don't read this before Christmas, it's going regardless. So I might as well prioritize getting to it, at least trying it and seeing if I think I'm going to enjoy it. Because I think I had the same idea last year, like if not at Christmas time, then when? So I just kind of need a push to get to it. But yeah, I will check back in with you guys once I get some stuff done around the house and finish my book and let you know how it went. Hey, so it is evening, and I'm happy to say that my 1 hour timer strategy did work. I did manage to get a whole bunch done, even though I was kind of in a lazy, comfy sort of vibe today. I did manage to start a loaf of sourdough, get the house vacuumed, took out the trash and recycling. I got these windows behind me washed because these are the dog's favorites to look out of. And there's always like smudge marks and lick marks on them because of them. And I also just did like a bunch of tidying and straightening up. And then Jake got home from work. I had a chance to make a mug of tea and finish my book. I got my hair washed, and he actually handled dinner for us, which was really nice. I mean, it was leftover stuff that I had made, but he did all the work to like reheating it and getting it prepped again. So that was nice. I didn't have to be in the kitchen at all. And I did finish The Holiday Honeymoon Switch by Julia McKay. So I think I'm going to settle on rating this one a 3.5 star. So it was fun in the moment. It was entertaining, but ultimately, like, there's nothing really that stood out or was memorable to me. There wasn't anything that I was like cheering about or rooting for. And there wasn't anything that I was like overly mad about, other than the foreshadowing being kind of heavy handed. And I guess in this instance, it was more just like things were directly mentioned, and it was more like a case of, okay, I know exactly where the story is going, or what moment or moments are going to crop up in the story because of things that have been directly mentioned. I kind of felt like, okay, if she's taking the time to tell us this specifically, then like it's going to be important to the story. And sure enough, it was. And it was pretty predictable in a lot of elements for that reason. I also just felt like it's not very realistic. It was more just kind of a fluff, entertaining read. But yeah, I liked it. I had a good time. It just didn't really do anything spectacular, and it didn't really catch me in the feels very much. Since this is like a holiday romance vlog specifically, I'm going to add like my cheesiness and spiciness ratings here. So I think cheesiness for this one, I'm going to give it like a 3 or 3.5 out of 5. There were definitely some cheesy moments that I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not realistic. But then also, like, it's not to the level of like a Hallmark movie cheesy. There's definitely still some more like serious content and like some banter. The dialogue did feel a bit more natural, and there was like some stuff that the characters had to deal with. So that kind of like helped it not feel ridiculous for sure. In terms of spice, I think I'll give this like a 1.5 to 2 out of 5. There were things kind of like mentioned or alluded to that happened like off screen, and then there were also like some just brief snippets of things happening. But like overall, it was pretty tame, especially compared to some other romance books that I have read in the past. So yeah, I think that's where I'll land on that. And then in terms of my next read, I've decided to go with Holiday Romance by Catherine Welsh. And this is the first book in the Fitzpatrick Christmas series, I found out. And funnily enough, I was commenting on Ian, like Ian the Reader's TBR video, and I was telling him in there because he was talking about like how his mood reading had kind of maybe made an appearance and might take over. I was like, oh, mine totally has. I'm working on a holiday romance reading vlog. And he's like, oh, I recommend the Fitzpatrick Christmas books by Catherine Welsh if you haven't read them yet. And funnily enough, I own the first one. So here we are. I think this will be my next read. In terms of the B-roll, you probably also might be wondering why Ozzy was wearing a cone. So if you missed my last vlog, I ended up having to take him to the vet because he busted open one of his toenails. And the cone was just kind of to keep him from licking and licking at it while he wasn't being supervised. But he is on the couch next to me now, cone free. Now that he's under supervision, he doesn't have to wear it, and he's a happy boy. I just knew that I would be busy doing other stuff and not really paying attention to him, and I didn't want him to be like looking at it and possibly getting it infected and getting bacteria in there. So I just had him wear his cone this afternoon. But yeah, I'm hoping tonight can just kind of be a cozy, chill reading night. I'll probably make another tea at some point. I'm kind of craving a peppermint tea tonight out of nowhere, so I might make that and hopefully have some cuddles with the dogs and Jake and get some reading in. So it has been almost a week since I have checked in with you guys. I didn't really get a ton of reading time in the last little while, but I have gotten a lot of decorating and stuff done around the house and just stuff to get ready for Christmas done. I'm sure you'll see in the B-roll, but I've got my gifts wrapped. You can see I've got the Christmas tree out with some lights on. I don't have ornaments on yet, but at least progress has been made. I've started some of my baking. And yeah, so far so good. I've been enjoying getting ready for the holidays. But I am here because I did read through the entirety of Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh. And I think I'm going to settle on a 4.5 or a 5-star rating for this one. I'm unsure at this point. So essentially, like, I have no real complaints and it did everything it set out to do. But it just is kind of missing that, like, I super am obsessed with, loved it sort of feeling. But this was a really good time, and I'm immediately interested in looking into what the sequel is and who it follows. And I'm assuming that it follows the various Fitzpatrick siblings in here, and that the next one is going to either follow Christian, Hannah, or Liam. But we'll see. In terms of cheesiness and spiciness, so I think cheesiness, this is a little bit cheesy. I mean, like, what holiday romance isn't? I'm going to say cheese-wise, it's like a 1.5 to 2 out of 5. Probably more like a 2 out of 5, actually. Especially with, like, the middle segments of this book. And then spiciness, I would also say it's a 2 out of 5. There are, like, some moments, there's some scenes, but it's nothing, like, crazy. It doesn't take over the book. I am really happy to say that this has some of my favorite romance tropes in it, and I think that's partly why I enjoyed it so much. There's one I can't really tell you about because it's a little bit spoilery, but it also has like a little smidgen or hint of the grumpy sunshine dynamic, which is fun, especially given that this is set on the holidays. And I will say it is clear, like, why these characters are attracted to each other and how they're compatible with each other. That's something I always enjoy seeing in a romance. I find that oftentimes a lot of authors just give two characters like physical chemistry or physical attraction to each other and call that compelling enough for two characters to be together. But I never find that compelling enough, and this definitely delivers a little bit more than that, so that was nice to see. I wish that the ending of this kind of expanded a little bit. I wish that it had kind of been drawn out a bit more. I would have liked more nuance to the third act conflict, a little bit more following action, and just even more of, like, seeing these two as a couple in the epilogue later. So I think on that basis, I will actually kind of settle on a 4.5 because I do have things that in my mind could make this better. But yeah, definitely enjoyed, would recommend for sure, and I'm intrigued to continue on with the series and figure out who the sequel follows. Assuming that it's out yet. I would think it is because I think this was 2022, so I imagine there's more than one by now. I also have started Love Light Farms. I'm only a few percent in. I got the audio hold come in from my library for this, and I'm ready to be back reading with my ears so that I can multitask a little bit better. And so far, I'm enjoying it. So from what I know of this one, it follows a woman who owns a kind of struggling Christmas tree farm, and she thought it was going to be more like romantic and fun, and she had all these grand visions. But it's not doing as well as she wanted. But she does sort of have an opportunity to turn things around because she has a travel influencer coming to visit the farm. The only thing is she's kind of given the impression that she and her boyfriend run this farm together when it's really just her. So I think she's looking to fake date someone in order to kind of sell that impression to the influencer, which I'm sure there's going to be some flaws with, but that it's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds. I'm not sure yet if it's going to end up being her best friend, Luca, who's introduced in chapter 1, or one of, like, her main employees that is, like, the main person in charge of the actual trees. But we'll see how that all plays out. And so far, I'm liking it. If you are curious, Jake is not reading any Christmas type reads, but he does have his extra, like, off-topic Thursday video this month as a ranking of Christmas videos. I'm not sure if this vlog is going to come out before that or after that. So either look out for that or stay tuned for that, depending on when this releases. He does his on the third Thursday of every month. But I'm definitely more of a Christmas book than a Christmas movie type person. I think with movies, I just find that I don't get enough nuance or, like, detail to the story to find it believable. Maybe that's not the case with every movie, but just it's a common trend for me with movies. One of the ones my family does every year is Christmas Vacation. And it's funny, my family loves it, and I'm just kind of like so sick of it at this point. I thought I was finally going to escape it, but it's a thing with Jake's family too, so it's a hopeless case now. I've just brought the movie guy out. So, what I know I just told them y'all watch Christmas Vacation every year, but what else do you guys watch every year?
A Christmas Story. That's the family tradition in our household. Also,
Usually
also
when usually when we put the ornaments on the tree, right? Which is why we haven't done
no,
it yet.
that's Christmas Vacation.
Oh, okay.
Christmas Day, we watch A
It's
Christmas
Christmas Story.
Story.
Okay. I got
And then
that mixed
also
up.
one that me and my mom will watch because we don't have very similar taste in movies, but one that we like to watch together is Four Christmases. I
Reese
would also
Witherspoon.
Vince Vaughn.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would also like to say that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. So any of y'all think that, get out.
I haven't watched it, so I don't have an opinion on that yet.
It's a good movie, but it's not a Christmas movie.
Oh.
And that's all I have to say.
All right. But yeah, I will probably be focusing more on Christmassy books this year, although I will get sucked into Christmas Vacation and A Christmas Story at some point, I'm sure. But so far, liking this one, and we'll keep you guys posted when I have more thoughts. Hey, so last time I checked in with you guys, I had just finished out Holiday Romance and I had been talking about how I wanted more from these characters. So I was going to look into the sequels. So I'm happy to say I did look into it. And there is a short story that happens between book 1 and book 2 called A Mistletoe Kiss. And you can get it for free if you sign up for the author's newsletter. So I went ahead and did that, and then I binged it. I think it was only about 20 pages or 25 pages or so. And it was a cute Christmas story. I think for me, it did give me a little bit more of what I was hoping to see in terms of the character dynamics and kind of like how they were more in a relationship together. It follows both of them as their family is coming to their place in Chicago for Christmas for the first time. And it's fun to kind of see their dynamic of hosting their families together and how the two families are with each other as well. I did kind of find it like too short to really give me what I was hoping for in terms of like more with the characters. I guess I wanted to explore like more of like the emotional side of their relationship and like how their emotions kind of like had evolved and changed since the end of this, and sort of like more on kind of like resolving the third act conflict in a way. But instead, it kind of just is like a little snippet into their future, and it doesn't really kind of like answer any big questions. There is also a spicier scene in this one, which takes up kind of a good chunk of the story. And I think for me, I'm really glad that I read it kind of like right after finishing the novel, because I tend to enjoy like more slow burn. And so, like, if I had waited between, I probably wouldn't have appreciated it as much because I wouldn't be like as emotionally attached to the characters going in. So I would say, like, if you're like me, I would recommend picking it up and reading it like pretty soon after finishing this one and not really waiting. And then I have to talk to you guys about Love Light Farms because I have finished this one already. Now, the thing with this one is the plot of this takes forever to kick in. Like, you do kind of get the fake dating set up early, but in terms of like how much of the book has progressed before the influencer actually comes to town and sort of like how she's experiencing the farm while she's there, that stuff isn't really center stage in this book. This one focuses a lot more on kind of like creating an atmosphere. It definitely has snippets of description throughout. It's definitely more description than I would personally prefer in my books, but I also feel like somebody who wants like an atmospheric, like Christmassy read is going to love that element of this. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It's just a not to my taste thing sort of deal. But it was really fun to buddy read this one with Kelly and kind of like bounce our thoughts off each other as we both finished it like within a day or two of each other. So beyond the amount of description, I did think that this one was cute and I did like the story for sure. There were definitely some good moments in here and I was definitely rooting for the characters. I also think that this one does a fantastic job of setting up potential couples for the sequels of this series, and I definitely am curious about those books as well. So I did sort of look into them, and it kind of like gives me the vibe that we're going to have one per season. So this one obviously is like winter leading up through Christmas, like the holiday season. The next one I'm kind of unsure season wise, but then book 3 looks like it's summer and book 4 looks like it's fall. So maybe book 2 is spring, even though the cover isn't necessarily screaming spring. I think the main thing that's kind of making me hesitate a little bit more in terms of like jumping into the sequels is that the synopsis for all of them seems to focus on the physical chemistry between the characters. Like they are together because they're physically attracted to each other. And that's something that I can be a little bit frustrated reading about if the characters don't have like some other kind of emotional connection or chemistry. In this one, we have like more of a friends to lovers trope. And so you get to see their friendship and you do get to kind of like see the connection between the characters beyond that. So I'm wondering if that's something that the author is going to be a little bit intentional about, kind of carrying like the emotional connection side into some of the sequels, or whether they're going to focus more on like the physical chemistry and connection between the characters. So if you have read the sequels to this, definitely hit me up in the comments, let me know, because I'm really curious about that. So I did really end up thinking this was cute and I liked the emotional connection the characters had. I did kind of think the third act conflict in this one was pretty forced. I did kind of want to just shake the main character in that section a little bit. I didn't necessarily buy into the logic of what she was doing. So like overall, it's a little bit hard to decide on a rating for this one because like I think there were elements of it I really liked and thought were cute, and I definitely enjoyed like the characters in here and some of the atmosphere and just some of the side plot stuff, and I'm definitely looking forward to the sequels. But then on the other hand, I did have complaints with this one, with the third act conflict and kind of like the amount of description. I think I'm going to settle somewhere in like the 3.25, 3.5 range. I do think it's definitely objectively a better book than The Holiday Honeymoon Switch, which I read first for this vlog, but also like enjoyment wise, I think I was kind of attached to that story a little bit more just because it had less kind of like atmospheric description, which usually tends to like have me zoning out. Editing me will probably put on the screen what I end up settling on rating wise for this one. Apologies, I forgot to charge my microphone, so it just died. We're just gonna go with it. So I think spice rating wise, this is probably more of like a 3.5 to 4 out of 5. There were definitely multiple scenes. There were definitely lots of description and like sexual tension in those scenes. And then a cheese factor, I would say this is maybe like a 3 out of 5 in terms of cheesiness. Like there's definitely some things in here that are in here just because it's like the typical holiday romance type stuff. And there's definitely kind of like one of the side plot things in here that didn't necessarily feel all that realistic. It was in there just kind of like to make you feel good when it was resolved, I think. So yeah, I would say it's cheesy, but it's not necessarily like ridiculously cheesy, if you know what I mean. So I think I'm going to decide to close out this vlog here after 3 books. I do still own Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey, which I was hoping to get to, but at this point it's like a week before Christmas. I have books that are going to self-destruct on Christmas, and I think I'm kind of past the reading romance mood, especially because these two had some certain similarities that kind of made me like, okay, let's move on to something different. Now, I don't necessarily think this is going to have those same things, but I will save this one for probably next December. And I'm excited to get into some of my other buddy reads this month, as well as some of my self-destruct books before they go. Let me know down below in the comments, are you reading any kind of like wintry holiday themed books? Are you reading any holiday romance? What are some of your favorites in that vein? Do you tend to kind of enjoy the more like serious ones or the more cheesy, like warm, comforting type reads this time of year? And definitely talk to me if you've read the sequels to either of these. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on what I had to ask and say about those. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out if you want to, and have a great day. Bye!